Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to a DC Superheroes United game. This is for the core set, the core box, for Batman Hush. Now, this will be one of two core boxes that come out. There's also just going to be the one that's probably titled DC Heroes United. Doesn't have the extra word Batman Hush on here, which was the crowdfunding core game to get, and then they started releasing like a retail one they could get extra quicker, and this is one coming out now. So like all the rest of the other DC United stuff will be coming hopefully sometime in the future. Still working on it right now during the crowdfunding, so then we'll get that. So we're going to look through this video. It's going to be a two-part video. The first one here is I'm going to go through the overview of everything that's in the box and the rules. This is because some people might not have played other United games before, being this is a core box. At least give everyone an idea of what the game is and how it's played, in case you haven't checked out my other United games before. And then part two, we'll go over all the heroes and the villains and all the cards and stuff in the game. So if that's what you're looking for, go ahead and hop into video two. It's linked in the description. Otherwise, yeah, go ahead and bear with me on this. So the other one thing I'm only going to mention this one time, and I'm going to at least attempt to restrain from mentioning it again, is comparing this to the Marvel version. I will do a separate video where I kind of look at some of the differences between like a DC set and the Marvel set, but I am not going to try and keep constantly referring back to it, because there are going to be people that are only going to buy the DC, there are people only going to buy Marvel, and people that will want both. So the one thing I will bring up about it is they are 100% compatible. Everything that is in the Marvel ones can be brought in and mixed in with the DC, and everything in the DC can be brought over and mixed in with Marvel. So you can have Superman and Captain America and Batman and Spider-Man all teaming up to fight off against, the Joker or against Dr. Doom. And you mix and match everything. The only base differences in the game is DC. Since they had 3 years of Marvel to play off of, they have they've added some extra icons and updated some of the stuff in the core sets, at least and on the cards, to make stuff a little bit easier. But that's really no different than Marvel doing that from Season 1 to Season 2, or Season 2 to Season 3, where they added new types of components and things that interacted with, such as these characters get to start with equipment cards, which weren't introduced until year 3 of Marvel. And a couple of things like that. And the same thing, they have dual heroes in DC right off the bat, and a bunch of the sets, which didn't show up until year 2 of Marvel. So that's the only thing, is they get to take experience from 3 years of the Marvel and add it into here to be like, hey, what can we add right away, and what can we maybe fix and adjust? That they did add some other, tweak some of the little things, but none of the rules and stuff should have changed at all. Alright, so, okay, enough with that. Let's hop into what it is. This is Batman Hush. So this is a theme story based on the Hush storyline for Batman, which you can see a couple of interesting things here. We got all our characters we're going to get play as. We got Batman in here. We got a Catwoman. We have a Robin. We have a Joker and Harley Quinn. We have Hush up here. And then we have Superman, who's being entangled by vines. And we'll kind of get into that more in the second video, but just what it is the idea is you're supposed to be trying to figure out who Hush is during the storyline. This is person from Batman's possible past. I don't want to spoil the ending of the story, because they don't spoil it in the cards here. There's a mysterious person called Hush. It's, things are happening. And Batman uses detective skills to figure out who it is. And then one big thing is Superman just controlled by Poison Ivy for a while. So yeah, you gotta kind of fight against Superman in this set, so it's kind of neat. So what does this have that the other core set doesn't have? The other core set is based off the Justice League. This is based off Batman exclusives. So if you're a big Batman fan, you're probably going to want this. If you're a big, just in general, DC fan, Justice League, you're going to want the other one. Is there any reason to not buy both? You're just going to get some duplicate basic components, like the setup game pieces, the tokens, but other than that, you'll have all brand new different characters for each set. You'll have new locations to play through and add in that make your games different. You'll have new heroes, new villains. new equipment cards. So yeah, there's no reason if you want more content not to buy an additional the other starter deck. So yeah, very, very cool. So let's go ahead and kind of... So what do we have in here before we jump in there? We're going to have our different characters which we've seen. So we have Batman and Huntress, which Huntress doesn't show up on the box for some reason. We have Catwoman. Not hard to see, but again, I'll show them off more in the second video. And then we have Tim Drake Robin. I believe it's Tim Drake Robin. Make sure I have that right. Yeah. So, like, perfect if you're a Robin fan, you feel like it's a Robin, but if you want to be specific, it's Tim Drake. Then we have Superman, who's cast in purple. So the heroes are always cast in blue. We have Superman in purple, who's called a dual identity hero. So he can be played as both a hero and a villain, obviously not at the same time. And then we have our villains, which we have Hush. And then we have a Joker and Harley Quinn, which are more like old classic comic book costumes. So if you do buy some of the other sets, you're going to potentially, when all the rest of it releases, there will be other Batmans with different poses. There's a different Catwoman who's a dual character. There's a Superman who's just a hero. There's an Arkham Asylum version of Harley Quinn. There's a more modern version of Joker. There's different Robins in there. You can get Damian, or you can get Dick Grayson Robins. So different stuff. The only characters that are 100% exclusive, you won't have another version of them, are Hush and Huntress. So if you're trying to get at least a version of every character, you need to get it for that. Alright, so those are our big, chunky, chibi-looking miniatures. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to get decks of cards for each character. So Batman will have his set of cards. Some of them will have starting card on the back. So they start in your hand. We have like Robins, Huntress, Catwoman, Superman. So these are our hero decks, which are all going to have various things on there. In the top, it's going to show which version of the character it is. Usually has a different symbol. It's going to tell you what it does, if it has a special ability, and then what icon you get to perform. And we'll go over that in just a moment. You see, some of them have different special abilities. Some have different icons. Some are just icons. They're like more basic abilities. And then we have like wild cards. So there's that Tim Drake Robins, Huntress, Catwoman with goggles, and then Superman who's being controlled. Then we will have villain decks. So we'll have villains like Hush, of course, and he's going to have a special deck of plan cards, which are a special thing for him. And then they all have, generally all the characters have threat cards, which are other different things you have to deal. Could be henchmen, could be traps. We have a Superman deck you have to deal with, and then his threat cards. And then Joker and Harley Quinn actually play as one team together. So actually fighting both of them at once. You only get 3 villains in the game, technically. But he has special joke cards in there. Then he has his regular deck. And then they have their threats. And he actually has a special mission you have to do. Some other cards we're going to get in here are challenge cards, which add extra rules. We have our 3 objectives: clearing threats, rescuing civilians, defeating thugs. We also have some supervillain and superhero cards. This is so if somebody wants to play as the villain, instead of the villain just being an automated deck, you can get a little bit more option out of that, and then each hero and villain player get some extra cards to help work around that, which is kind of a cool idea as well. And those are all standard card sizes. Then we're also going to get a bunch of mini cards. We get a bunch of equipment cards. So like Batman gets his batarangs and his gauntlets and his antidotes. Robin's going to get some batarangs and a staff. We got Huntress gets her crossbow. Catwoman gets her goggles. We have a Kryptonian ring to fight against Superman with, specific for his mission. Then we also have just some generic equipment. Some flares, some flashbangs. So that way any player can use equipment even if they don't specifically have any. And then we also have some battle plans which are used for if you want to play more of a solo mode. So we have some extra cool cards in there too. The next thing we have is for our villains. They actually have big, giant, oversized cards, which explain how they're trying to keep track of their health. And we'll look at this more again in the second video. And when we go through the rules, look a little bit more at this. But it's going to tell what you do if you hit a BAM icon on one of their cards you draw, what they're trying to do, and then if they have special effects in there. So like Hush's is a little bit different. He just has special rules with his BAM. And Superman has even like a warning one on his. And on the back side, they'll have their special setups you have to do, like setting up specific characters or cards, again, special objective cards, placing his Hush decks, and then the supervillain icon on there. Again, if someone's playing as Hush, if an actual person wants to play as one of the characters, the hero gets some extra starting tokens to help them out to combat it not being a random draw versus someone mentally playing it. Then we have the villain dashboard. And this is going to just kind of a placeholder for all your stuff so you know what to do. So your villain gets popped up onto here so you know what that's in there. And then we had those threat cards earlier. I don't know where they disappeared to in the pile of my cards. That were like rescuing thugs and... yeah, I don't know where they disappeared in here somewhere. But yeah, then you put your things like your rescuing civilians, defeating thugs, or defeating threats. And you put them on here, and then as you beat different stuff, you gain more abilities. You can, like, add extra cards, you can damage the villains. It's very cool there, and that's only a one-sided thing. And then the last main component we have are our locations. So on the back, it's going to say Batman Hush, so we know it belongs to this series. But as you play games, you can mix and match any of these as you want. Although there are going to be some villains that require certain locations. And these are the different areas you go to. And you'll be placing civilian or thug tokens on here. The opponent's going to try to fill them up with thugs or overflow because you're not rescuing civilians, you're not defeating thugs. They'll have threat cards that will go down here, so cover these up. This will be your various threat cards, which will be villains, like you might be fighting the Riddler down here, which is a neat way to add extra characters. And if you beat him, then you get this, you have option of potentially using these extra abilities. And these are different locations that are going to be throughout the theming of the set. So this will be Gotham adjacent stuff. But like if you're playing like the Green Lantern set and it has you'll get some things that go with that. If you're playing the Justice League, you'll get Justice League. The Superman set, you'll get Metropolis theme. And we'll look a little bit more at some of these in the next video. But you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 8 of them. It's very cool. And then the very last thing is we have all of our tokens. So we have Crisis tokens. We have health hit point tokens. We have our thugs, we have our threat, we have an invulnerability token. On the back side of all the thugs are civilians. They're just double-sided tokens. So that way you can flip them over very easily. And then we have all our action tokens representing, you can occasionally get tokens you can save up and spend versus just playing your cards for actions. We have movement, wild, heroics, attack. Plus we have some other interesting ones like moving up the time meter for villains. Getting KO'd, making it so they can't BAM, which is good their special effects. We even have a Poison Ivy token, which again, if you get like the later set and you get a Poison Ivy, you can flip that over. And then some of the tokens do flip over for like randomly discarding or other momentum. So very, very cool. Now, there is an option that if you buy the other starter deck, you're going to get, for the most part, a duplicate of the sheet. Obviously, it probably won't have the Poison Ivy token. It might have a different token in there as well for some other character. You might not have maybe as many BAMs, just depends on how many villains perform that as much, and same like the KOs. But you'll get a lot of the same exact tokens. The other sheet should be the exact same. So you will get those. Alright, so let's take a look at the rulebook. What is the game? How do we play it? And what is it? Now that we know what we have in here. So in the overview, here's our 1 to 4 players take on the role of a hero working together to thwart the master plan of ability. Alternatively, supervillain mode, 1 player takes on the role of a villain and go up against 4 heroes. Players build a storyline by drawing villain cards and playing their own hero cards to counter the villain's schemes. Players play cards allowing them to move their heroes, rescue civilians, defeat thugs, clear threats, and use their heroes' unique powers. Choose cards carefully as heroes can make their abilities to act as a perfect team. Meanwhile, villains roam around weaving their plans, spreading Chaos, deploying henchmen, attacking heroes. Only after accomplishing yes and missions will heroes be able to directly attack the villain. So, I just want to jump to a further page of the game to kind of show what the board will look like after a while. If they show it in here, they don't actually show the board in here. That is kind of dumb. I thought they were showing a full thing. So here's our layout. We're gonna basically play our player villain, play our different threat cards. You're gonna play your 6 locations. So you're gonna have 2 extra locations, which is kind of nice. Gets you a little bit of extra randomness. And have piles of tokens laying around. Each player has their character. But what you do is you actually are supposed to play the game by placing cards in a circle storyline around the table. And as you go through it, I'm just going to kind of just jump to this other page which kind of shows it. So you kind of play cards in a half circle like this. So like the villain gets to act, so they play one of their cards. Then player 1 goes, player 2 goes, player 3 goes. Then you come back to play the villain card. And then depending on how many players they are or at what point the villain is, because if you get under pressure, then they play after every 2 cards. So the first time it's 3. So if you're only playing a 3-player game, this would be player 4. If you're playing a 2-player game, it would be villain, player 1, player 2, player 1, villain, player 2, so on and so forth. But then later they become active after every 2 cards. So that's villain, hero, hero, villain, hero, hero. And then you're playing these in order. And this makes a big difference, or a big deal, because on the bottom of the cards, whenever you play it, you get to use whatever abilities are on your teammates, the other hero's previous card. So kind of working together does make a difference. Someone's like, hey, I need help moving this turn. I don't have a move card. You could play something that could help them move. Or, hey, we really need extra attack to be able to defeat this thug or this villain or henchman or whatever. You can play a card that could potentially help them out that way as well. Yeah, so very simple. So I'm going to just kind of read turn order before I get into like specifics of cards here. So the villain turn is followed by 3 clockwise hero villain turns. Under pressure, once the first mission is complete, villain's turn after 2 any under pressure effects replace regular ones. So during the villain's turn, they add 1 master plan to the storyline. So they take their deck, they draw the first card, and they are going to do the following. They are going to resolve the effect or add 1 master plan to the storyline, revolve the effect in order from top to bottom. So first they're going to move clockwise or counterclockwise, sometimes the arrow can point the other way, to whichever location is on the board. So you'll have these locations, move this out of the way. You'll have these locations on the board like so. I'm just going to grab 3 of them as just an example. And if we click Hush here, right, and he draws his first card and he moves 5 spots, he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around the board. And then whatever spot he stops on, he's going to activate his thing down here. So if he landed on this spot here, he's going to place 1 thug, 1 civilian on this spot, and then on each adjacent one, he's going to place 1 civilian token, and they just go in the little slots down there. So if like I grab one of those. So they're going to take these little things, so he's going to place 1 there, and he's going to place 1 thug on the other one, and then he'll place some on the other one. And what you're trying to do is he's trying to fill up these spots. Then resolve any special effects on the card, resolve any BAM effects on the card. So like he had a BAM effect. Now there's nothing on the BAM here, so then we go back to his villain dashboard, which has a BAM effect. It says until the villain's turn, when a Huntress is defeated, if Hush is in its location or adjacent to it, remove the top part of the master plan from the game. So he's kind of like, if you defeat his guys when he's around, he gets actually a little bit of an advantage. First it says, trigger any effects on the location if you have any. Then do the BAM, Then we're doing special effects. So move, do the BAM, do the special effects till the next turn. Redirects first damage you take to a henchman's location, and then you place it. So you just do this in order. Resolve overflow effects in each location that would be added. So if we had for example, if we already had 4 things on there and he had to place another guy on here, civilian or thug, then you refer to his overflow thing. Says remove the top card of the master plan from the game. So his idea is he wants to run his deck out as quickly as possible. Once the villain's deck runs out, they win the game. So that's his goal. So then for heroes, they draw a card from your deck. Play a card, and your deck is kind of like your hand is your life total, essentially. So play a card, act destroying. Resolve action in any order. All symbols on the bottom of your card and the previous hero card. Move to an adjacent location. Deal 1 damage. To defeat a thug. So thugs here take 1 damage. Move 1 health from a henchman villain. Like we saw earlier, we had... If he had Harley Quinn on there, she can take 3 damage points. Or remove 1 health from a villain after completing mission 2. So after you complete at least 1 threat, then you can start attacking the villain. Heroic ones, rescue a civilian, or place a heroic action on a threat. So you can rescue a civilian by removing them from the board, or attacking a thug to get rid of them. There are also going to be... We grab a threat card here that has symbols on it. So like we have one for Superman who has heroic symbols. So you can put a token on here to try and complete that. And there can be other threat cards that have other different symbols as well. They don't all just have to be heroic. They're just typically heroic. Or wild resolve any action. So if like I'm, for example, I play Robin. I get to do an attack. So if I had Robin jump into this area, I played my card. I scoot that up so you guys can see it. Robin gets to do 1 attack. So he can, if we are on the part where he can attack the villain, he can attack the villain. Otherwise, he can defeat a thug. If on the previous turn, Batman had played... Try and find a Batman card. So if Batman went previous turn and then Robin went, Robin could get an attack card, or an attack action, a heroic action, and a move action. And he can do these in any order. So he could attack a thug, attack a civilian, and then maybe he's like, I don't want to be in the spot with Hush in case something happens. He could then move. He can opt to not move and just skip that action as well. He's like, no, I want to stay here until my next turn because I have to do something. Or he might stay because there's this end of a turn ability. But he can do them in any order, however he wants. Now, if, for example, Batman's previous card had a skill on it, Robin gets only the stuff on the bottom. You never recreate this stuff. In the same way, if Robin had played... If it was played like this instead, Robin would gain 2 heroics, a move, and then his meditation ability. So it's kind of neat. So kind of planning with your teammates. And what if there was a villain in there? So there's always a question there. So what if they were fighting Hush? Batman took his turn, then Hush took his turn, then Robin went. He would still get the previous character. You just skip over the last villain card. They're supposed to keep playing these in a big giant circle around the table. As much as you can. I myself opt to kind of play them in piles just because I have limited table space, or I'm playing either solo by myself and I don't want to keep reaching a big circle. Playing with a couple of people, you can kind of hand them out. Resolve any special effects on your card. Spend any action tokens you have. If you have gained any tokens, you can use them as many or as few as you want. They stay around until something discards them. And that location effect at the end of your turn. So lots of these, if you've defeated the threat, so if Superman's threat was controlled Poison Ivy and you got rid of this at some point, reveals the end of the turn, you may now at the end of your turn use that ability if you are on that location. So sometimes moving to a location might be beneficial just for that reason. Hero damage. If you ever take damage, you discard 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. KO. If you discard the last card in your hand, lay your hero down and activate the villain's KO effect. Next turn, stand back up, draw 3 cards before the usual draw step. So yeah, if your hand is kind of like your life total, you're going to draw 1 every turn. And you're going to play one every turn. So generally, you're just going to keep replacing it and stay at the initial amount you have. But if the opponents start hitting you too hard, it's going to cost you. It's going to be harder for you to do stuff. And then winning and losing. Heroes win if they have all the health tokens from the villain, must complete 2 missions first, or complete the heroic goal on the villain dashboard. So some of them might say, you can't defeat this hero, you have to do something else. I was trying to see if any of these guys had one of those. None of these guys do. These guys all just have health. The heroes lose, however, if the villain completes a villainous plot on the dashboard. Villain must play a card, but the master plan deck is empty, or a hero starts their turn with no cards at all. So if you run through your entire deck, every time you get hurt, it goes to the bottom of your deck. So you don't lose that card forever. But if you play too many cards too fast by doing something or other, or you have too many ways to draw and play extra cards, you could run your deck out. We saw Hush had cards that let him, for example, his Overflow was remove the top card of the master plan from the game. So now instead of having 12 cards, now he has 11 cards to go through. He's one turn closer to winning every time he does that. That's the basic simplicity of the game. You are going to be spending your turns playing cards, trying to go around and doing various missions and stuff. Here are the three basic missions you have. Clear threats are purple, so your threats are always these things. Or they're always the threat cards from the villains. And there'll be 6 of them. Rescuing civilians or defeating thugs. So if you can defeat four of the 6, you clear this one. If you get 9 thugs or 9 civilians, you clear one of those. And then each time you clear one, they start by covering up these spots. You get to do extra stuff. So the first time you do it, villain actor acts after every 2 villain hero cards, so he puts them under pressure. So you get rid of 1, and now the other 2 are still on the board here. So now you can start attacking the villain. If you defeat another one of these, let's say you defeat clear threats first. This just slides over. Now you've unlocked the villain is now vulnerable to damage. So you have to defeat 2 of these. So the first time they get to act quicker, the second time you get to fight them. So what would be the point of then worrying about the last one is each hero immediately gets another card. So yeah, if you're getting down to the end and you're on the last one, really you don't have to worry about clearing out the last threat or the last objective. But if you do, you get an extra bonus. Like, yeah, you're already going around doing it. You have nothing else to do. Because even though if you're trying to defeat the villain, let's say you're on this space right here, right? If Robin has an attack, he has a choice. Either he can attack and do 1 damage to Hush, but if he's not going to defeat Hush, he might want to worry about taking out some of the thugs first, or rescuing a civilian to clear that so it doesn't overflow. Because yes, damage to the villain's always great, and I would probably recommend damaging the villain while you're on their space, because otherwise they could move to another space and you might not catch them the next turn. But yeah, so that's basically how the game works. It's fairly simple. Now again, there's always little twists and everything for every single thing, because Hush has his own little extra plan deck. He's going to play cards that are going to give you extra little things you have to do. And then certain things like that, or the Joker is going to actually have another different objective than kidnapping. So each time there are 3 or more civilians here, discard his tokens and draw a master plan. So he's going to have a special thing that's going to activate. And actually always makes all the villains and everything different, because every villain's going to do its own different things. Some heroes are going to, in general, be better against one villain versus another villain. Maybe because if you have a villain that has a lot of ability to move around, you're going to want a hero that can move around more. If there's a villain that has a lot more damage or has a lot higher health, you're going to want heroes that do more damage. So you could essentially, if you buy all the different stuff, all the different expansions, you could sometimes purposely create a group of heroes that's going to excel and just beat on the villain in a lot easier, because you're going to be able to do damage quicker, move quicker, manipulate. I mean, all the heroes are kind of balanced out a little bit, but you can kind of steer it one direction or the other. Versus you could also pick one in a group of team and be like, I'm just going to pick my 4 favorite characters we're going to play as. And it might be a team that's not as cohesive. Maybe everyone's a moving character and you don't have a lot of attack. That's going to make getting around the board to do stuff easy, but you're not going to be able to do things. So I'm not going to go through read every card right now, but just looking at the symbols on the bottom. So like Batman has move heroic, he has a wild, he has a move attack, attack, move heroic, attack, moving attack. So he's pretty much down the middle. Robin, on the other hand, he's going to have heroic, attack, heroic, move, attack, heroic, attack. So he doesn't have as many of attacks. He has more movement and heroic abilities. So he's going to kind of be focusing on that a little bit. Now, also have to keep in mind that your special abilities do make up for that in some extent. So it's not just what's at the bottom of the card. Huntress has moves and attacks, move heroic, attack. So she's really focused on more moving and attacking versus doing heroic stuff. Catwoman has move attack, heroic. She's kind of a little bit down the middle line too. But look at all these wilds she has. Wild, double wild, single wild. Another wild there. So she's have a lot more option of being flexible. And of course, if you're playing as Superman, even though he's controlled, he has a lot of extra attacks on his cards. He has a bunch of wilds, he has a bunch of movements. Kind of again down the middle as well. But then he also has a negative card in his deck as well, which could possibly come out. If you play this card, you must play it, so it forces you to play it. Each time you're forming an attack, this turn deal 1 damage to another hero in a location, each adjacent location. So Superman's maybe a little bit OP, but he does have this ability that could come back and hurt him. Awesome. So that's the basis of all of that. Alright, so let's kind of just take a quick gander back through the book to see if we missed any overtly stuff. Now we got the idea of what the game is. So set up the game, mission guide in the middle of the table, set up your standard 3 mission cards, choose a villain to place their dashboard. It says we recommend new players start with Superman. The villain dashboard has a special setup instructions on the back. Follow those instructions, then flip the dashboard to its front side. Place its hero token trackers on there. So, and that's going to be the number per player. So if you're playing 2 players, he only has 2 health. 4 players, he has 4 health. And that's the thing, like, right, Hush only has 4 hit points, right? So I need to hit him 4 times. But the thing is, you have to catch him and be in his space, which could be tricky because villains can move quite a bit. So Hush could move 5, 4, 3, 2, 0 spaces, 1 space. Like we're playing against Superman, he has 3s, 4s, 5s, 4s, 2s. So they're kind of, and since they're all kind of random, you can do whatever, kind of get around. And again, if you have someone playing the supervillain mode and they're playing as them, you gotta pick one of those cards. Randomly pick any 6 locations unless the guide says for a special set, play the certain locations. Shuffle all the villain threat cards, place 1 down each based on location, and place health tokens on them. So on the location cards, they do have symbols that start with them. So this will start with 1 civilian and 1 thug. Now all of these right here all had 4 spots on them each. That's not always going to be the case. Some of them have double civilians on them. Some have 3. This only has 1 thug. This has 2 thugs. And this one has 2 thugs as well. So these are all 4 locations, but you can get, that one only had 3. But you could get some that have potentially 5. I don't know if there's been any 6s or not, but usually if there is, they usually start about half full anyhow. Put all the tokens down, shuffle the master plan deck for the villain, keep it aside. Each hero chooses their hero figure, places at a location opposite of the villain. And they shuffle their hero decks. Some cards have starting hand on the back, so make sure those cards are placed at the top of the deck, and after shuffling, hero has bottom of the deck, make sure it's placed at the bottom. So, if we're playing controlled Superman, he has starting hand. So after I shuffle up all the rest of his cards, I put this on the top, so that means I draw this in my first turn. It doesn't mean I just start with that card and then draw the additional. So you draw 3 cards from the top of your deck. We got optional for equipment, which I'll look over in just a minute. We talked about winning and losing already. talked about here. Just a brief reintroduction about how you move. You move in whatever direction it says. Sometimes they'll say move otherwise. They might say, special box might say, move to the closest hero, move to the weakest hero, move to the spot with the most things, move counterclockwise. They could have a bunch of different options in there. If their villain ends in a threat space, shows the target symbol. Even if the villain's movement is immediately resolve the effects of that threat card. So if we find a threat card that has one of those, I don't know if any of these guys do or not. And they might not specifically. Yeah, none of these in this set do, but they might in later sets. But what it would be is on the bottom of a threat card, it might have like a little dash thing, or it'll have like one of the symbols that looks like this, and it might be like, if you land on that threat spot, you get to do something, which kind of makes that threat a little bit worse to be against. Because that way you have to worry about that triggering if the villain lands there. Alright. Then we have activate BAM effects. The card shows the BAM symbol. Activate the BAM effect on the villain dashboard, then any effects on shown threat cards are the threat card villain. So on your card first, and then any villain that has it. So this again can be like, if there's threats on there, they're like, hey, this is placing the hero cards down to destroy this, or there's a villain. You might need to target the henchman villain first, because otherwise they're going to keep having BAM tokens. They'll kick off all the time. If we kind of like look through like Hush's deck here, BAM, 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 BAM. So every single one of his cards is going to trigger a BAM. Look at Superman's, same exact thing. So they're going to be triggering these almost every single time. Plus Hush's threats, he has Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, Joker, Clayface, Harley Quinn, and Riddler. So all of them are going to BAM every time too. Whereas Superman's threat cards, I don't even know where I put them. His are all Ivy stuff. So none of his are going to be have BAM effects. So it's not as big of a deal. So that's why I think they said he's a little bit easier. But yeah, so there's some different stuff that's going to happen there. Then you add your thugs and your civilians to your adjacent locations. Trigger your overflow effects. Hero's turn, they get to play their card. So here we're showing resolving actions. Catwoman plays her card combined with Robin's symbol. She can perform 2 attack, or 1 attack, 2 moves, and 1 heroic action in any order. And this could also be attack, heroic, or move, attack, heroic, move again. Like you could do them in different orders. You have to move doesn't mean you have to move twice right in a row exactly. For example, this one, again, we just kind of mentioned that. She gets her 2 attack actions. She gets Batman's heroic, but she does not get his special effect. Just again, kind of detailing what some of these are. Some of them have special effects on there they get to use to tell you exactly what to do. There's a couple icons in here to help out. So you have charged effects. Some heroes have the charged icon identified by a little arrow with a card symbol on it. And a yellow background. This effect requires a hero card to be flipped, turn face down to active. These cards are played in storyline as usual, but the hero who played them may choose to flip them at a later time, while in the timing indicated on the card use their special effect. Note, the card is flipped on the same turn as played. It will find no bonus for the next hero. You can only flip and activate one of their charge effects per turn. So yeah, that's kind of a neat mechanic there. There are various cards that let you flip cards face down. So like Batman has one that says, if Robin is about to be KO'd during a villain turn, flip this card to avoid Robin and discard it. But if he does that, then the previous hero does not get to use that symbol because it's now face down in the line. And there are other cards, villain cards that might flip stuff face down. That's again just to kind of limit what you can interact with. There are constant effects which are in green. Once they come out, now they have a permanent thing, like Superman has invulnerability. We might have other characters that have like healing factors, so they might like get to draw an extra card every turn to heal back up, or if they're under 3 cards they can draw back up. And then mandatory effects we saw before with Poison Ivy's, Superman's Poison Ivy control. You play them, they must be resolved, so you have to play them first, and they're generally negative. Some locations may also have mandatory effects as well. So like we do have one here. This has a black one. It says Batman must spend additional movement to enter this location, and when using actions during his turn. So this one specifically targets Batman, makes it a little bit harder for him to activate. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting little thing. Action tokens, as you gather them, various things, you can spend them as you need. Note, when a hero gets an action token, they may hold on and spend it during any future turn. If you get KO'd, you don't lose your tokens or anything like that. So that's not a big deal. There are also cards that let you give tokens to other players. Generally speaking, it's a cooperative game, so you can ask them if it gives you an option, you could ask them which token they might want. But you can also argue, hey, I get the choice regardless. Then there's end of turn effects at the bottom of the cards. So we talked about it. So, turn sequence, under pressure cards, we have our Mischief for arresting civilians, defeating thugs, clearing threats. We have Henchman activity and other things. So another thing I also point out about the missions for civilians, thugs, and clear threats, these are the base game ones. There's possible in an expansion, and although I'm not going to mention Marvel, I'm going to mention it here for a second. There is an expansion in there that actually added Plan B cards, so I imagine DC will do that in one of the expansions as well, which actually adds a harder mode to this. Instead of 9, I think they're up to 12, and instead of 4, I think it's 6 clear threats. It's just to make the game a little bit more difficult. So there's ways to like artificially increase your difficulty of the game by adding more difficult cards like that. So once a threat has been cleared, remove its card. Any grenade tokens on the threat pool. Threat no longer has anything, so just remove it. If a game brings in effect that clears the threat back into play, place it on the first location without a threat. Select the villain's location. If a henchman is returned to play, return it to full health. If a threat card moves, its threat token moves with it. If a threat card has no threat token next to it, usually is brought back. Simply take an available threat token and place it on the mission card. So there could be something that keeps bringing them back. After respective missions have been completed, rescuing civilians, defeating thugs, clearing threats do not advance the game. However, doing so helps the players avoid overflow and gains benefits. So it's like saying if I've already defeated the 4 threats I've needed to do, or if I've completed all 9 civilian rescues, I'm not going to gain any additional general bonus from that unless I have a card that says something. But it keeps from the overflow, or it could get rid of a thing that makes your cards harder. Some of the threats can be could be like, oh, all thugs on this location take 2 damage to defeat, right? Well, great. You might want to get rid of that so you can defeat thugs quicker, so you have to spend 2 points. One might slow you down. You know, again, thugs are going to, or henchmen are going to keep having them BAM effects. Completing the missions, remove them. Hero damage. So whenever you take damage, discard the card from their hand. We already talked about that. KO heroes must be ignored by all game effects, both negative and positive. So if you're KO'd, someone can't give you a token or something like that. Alright, so that's the core of the game. So we have challenges, equipment, additional stuff, so we're going to take a look at that. So we have some challenges in here, and there's 2 cards that show this. For a moderate challenge, each hero removes 1 wild card from their hero, and then hard challenge, remove the double wild from their hero deck. So yeah, every single hero, with very, very few exceptions, will always have will have 1 double and 1 single wild card. So you can remove them to make the game a little bit more challenging, because now you have less cards in your deck, as well as you don't have the thing that can do anything, so now you have to plan your turn a little bit better. We also have equipment cards. So experienced players may choose that equipment for their game. We strongly recommend introducing equipment only after all players are familiar with game rules. Just that way you know what you're doing before you start adding an extra element to pay attention to. Each hero playing with equipment cards must remove the double wild card from the hero deck to preserve the game's balance. So this could be another way to maybe kind of not necessarily make the game easier, but give you different options. Each hero equipment belongs to a specific hero as indicated on the card itself. If a hero has More than 3 equipment cards available, they can only choose up to 3 to use in a game. Some will have 3, some might have 1. A lot of them might have nothing. Equipment are placed based up on the corresponding hero during the sidestep. Equipment cards are not considered hero cards, not affected by anything that targets them. Heroes with base up equipment can choose using whenever they wish, following the indication on the card. Some cards can be used on the hero's turn, others on villain turns, just whenever their effects apply. They must be turned face down, making them unusable when they are face down. Note that some cards have permanent effects, means they are not turned face down, so we'll see that as well. Heroes are able to recharge their equipment by performing tasks described on the cards. Special effects on the hero cards may also allow them to recharge their equipment. Note that some cards cannot be recharged and must be removed from the games once played. So, like the battering says, use on your turn, you get an attack, the occasional location, then turn face down. And on the other side, it says to recharge. At the beginning of your turn, discard 1 action token, your turn is face up, and it can be any different token you have. So you could go ahead and get tokens and then recharge that. Not all heroes have equipment cards. The equipment belong to this game are Batman has a couple, Catwoman, Huntress, and Robin. The 4 main heroes all get one. Superman doesn't get any specifically for himself. So yeah, I just want to take a quick look at those before we get any further into this. Again, we're not going to get into too much. But yeah, so it's just like Batman Classic specifically, versus if we have a like Armored Batman in a different set, or Justice League Batman, which I think is just called Batman. So he has his specific ones he can use. Like then we have Robin with Tim Drake. So Damien's not going to be able to use it. Dick's not going to be able to use it. Same thing with Huntress, Catwoman, and we have Batman. So any Batman can use this one. Then we just have some generic any hero cards. Now, you could give these to Batman instead of his regular cards if you like. Give them to Superman, whoever, in change of what it does. I would also argue if, like, one of the characters only has, like Huntress only has 2 cards, where Batman has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to use, and you can only pick 3 of them. But Robin has 3, so there's no reason not to take all 3, but Catwoman and Huntress only have 2. I would argue you could take a third optional one if you wanted to give them 3 anyhow. They have some different things on there. On the backs, though, some of them have a break thing, so like a makeshift weapon. So once you use some of these, they are broken. A lot of the basic ones for anybody are like that. They're one-time use effects. Most of the hero-specific ones have the little gear, but we got something like the motorcycles that don't. They're used once and then they're broken. So they don't have a way to recharge. Alright. There's a couple other little things in here for rule-wise. We have additional rules. You have stunned. An effect attacks a stun token to a villain or henchman. Place the stun token over their BAM. During their next turn, his BAM effects are cancelled. So there's our big no BAM signs. The villain delay or accelerate. Some effects will delay or accelerate the villain on their turn. So it gives you a plus much. Now, I will note that not all of these tokens or effects are necessarily on any character in this game. They're putting them here because it's the base game. So if you buy this and then you go and buy an expansion later that does one of these things, you have the tokens already. So if you're playing through, you're like, I've never had anyone that had me use the accelerate token. Might be because it's for an expansion eventually and they just didn't want to have to include it in an expansion box, possibly. So this just ups or delays their cards. So either means the villain will either play their next card 1 turn later or earlier than usual. So if they accelerate, instead of playing at 3, they play it at 2. If they decelerate, instead of playing at 3, they play it at 4. Invulnerable, a hero states the hero cannot take any damage, or if they ignore 1 damage or 1 or more damage, taking invulnerability as a token just to remind them that they can't be damaged. The randomly play face down. In effect, makes the hero place their next hero card randomly or face down. They just take this token as a reminder to do that. There are KO tokens. Certain KO tokens are used by villains for various effects. And the crisis token used by certain villains representing nefarious influences. Usually described in other text. So everyone can use it a little bit differently. Someone might they might gain their own crisis. Some might place them on location. Some might give them to heroes and then be like, oh, this does extra thing for each hero that has a crisis token. various differences. So unlimited tokens. Supply of core tokens is unlimited. For any reason a specific token runs out, use anything as a replacement. And then there are also the dual mode characters, like Supermatch or Purple, which have both a hero deck and a villain deck. You can play them as either, just not at the same time. Now, someone might argue, okay, what if I have this Superman and I have a Superman from a different set? Can I play that Superman against this Superman? Nothing's stopping you, right? Because you have one deck. What if I want to play this Superman, controlled Superman, versus the other Superman, or against this Superman, but I want to use one miniature as a hero, one as the other? Nothing's going to stop you. It's your game. If you want to play that same deck against each other, there's nothing that's going to be, in general, there's nothing going to be on the villain's card that's going to counteract what that hero deck does. I only say in general because there is a character, again, I don't want to mention Marvel too much, but there's one character in Marvel that as a villain uses their hero deck. But that's out of, hundreds of characters in Marvel, so it's not a very common thing. Location has permanent effects. Says recommend new players don't use them because they're going to be a little bit harder. Unpreventable damage. This kind of damage cannot be prevented, reduced, or ignored by any effect. So note that all heroes can't damage a villain until they've completed 2 missions. So heroes and villains that can't be damaged still won't be damaged even by unpreventable damage. So at the beginning of the game, if you have someone that says, oh, this can't be prevented, and you hit with a massive attack, if the villain has that point where they can't be hurt regardless. Alone, some effects refer to heroes as being alone. Now, heroes alone if there's no other heroes in location. A hero sharing a villain with a villain is considered to be alone. Also, I note with this is there are some later expansions are going to add companions or allies, which aren't full heroes, but they're actual guys that will pop on the board. They would negate the alone effect. If they're out, they're no longer alone because they're with another miniature on the board. And there's breaking ties. Players decide how this should evolve. But rock, paper, scissors, punch someone in the face, however you want to do it, Alright, then maybe one of the last things, the next thing we're going to go over is the villain mode. I'm not going to dive into this too much. This is basically so if one player wants to control the villain, they'll have to 5 players to play the game. They can go ahead and do it. The villain is bolstered by all the skills of the player, but also the supervillain cards and nasty surprises. So it's going to be set up very much like the very similar thing, but player shuffles up, 12 supervillain cards, draw 4 cards, chooses 3, keeping them hidden, then removes the remaining 1 from the game. Supervillain cards are at the disposal of the villain, but are not part of their hand. So we have this extra deck we had of super villain cards. So you get a couple of these. You get start with of the 12. You get 3 of these to start with, and it gets you like 3 extra bonus effects to do throughout the game. Which, if we just take a quick look at any of those, it's gonna be something like start of the game after setup. You can add extra minions in the game. At the end of the hero's turn, if you're under pressure, the last card in the storyline hero is face down, so they can't use your extra effect. Bring one of your threat choices back into play. Give a crisis token to any location. So you have some different options there, which is really neat. Then if you also play it, the heroes get some extra tokens to start with. This is because before, like when we said the villains had to be on certain spots for dodge heroes, and they might be like, so if, like, example, just even right here, if I have Robin and Hush in the same spot, and it's Hush's turn, he's going to randomly draw a card. He could draw a 2, a 3, a 5, whatever. If he's worried about Robin catching him, like, hey, a 5 puts him right on the next location back here. That doesn't really help him get away from Robin. He probably wants to play, like, a 3 or something. But on the other hand, he might want to play a 0, because then he can already bam right there and hit Robin if he's at that spot, if his bam effect activates. But if you're playing just regular mode, that's random. You don't know what you're going to get. But if you're playing as the villain now, you might potentially have that choice. So on the villain's turn, each player so they draw 2 cards at the top of their deck, and they start with 2 cards. So they don't have a lot of options, but they have at least 2. Before drawing the hero cards, hero players draw any number of random superhero cards, so the heroes also get some cards that have different effects to help them out as well. But they usually have very specific triggers. So a villain turn, each villain start of the game draws top card of the master plan and choose one of their plans. So you'll have 3 cards to choose from. If the deck is empty, they simply play a card from the hand. They have no cards. When they're supposed to, they win the game. Elements of master plan are usually executed as usual. They just get more options on when to do stuff. So yeah, it kind of adds a little bit more difficulty to the game as well. If the villain is already an experienced player, you can remove some of your tokens to make it easier. And then there's Commander Solo mode, so if you want to play as a single player. Special mode, you can play as a single hero, counting the aid of the cards provided by a small support team. So pick your main hero as usual and remove your double wilds. Then choose up to a team of 4 supporting heroes. Their figures won't be used as it only offers support. Search each hero's deck for cards with 12 special effects and choose 3 of those cards. So you won't get to use their just general wilds or just their one that says attack or just move. You always have to have one with special effects on them. Choose 3 of these cards for each of the heroes, but a 12-card deck. Cards from our starting hand cannot be chosen, because usually they're a lot of times permanent stuff. Shuffle this deck and keep it face down. So basically, yeah, it's kind of neat. So if I'm playing as Batman, I can have an extra deck with Robin, Huntress, and Catwoman helping me out. So I have 3 other different characters I can get some extra abilities from, so I'm not just playing that. Reveal the top 2 cards of the supporting hero deck, place them in front of the deck, forming your display. If the equipment cards optional, you can play as them. Special components. Decide your battle plan budget. The maximum possible is 2, but you can play 1 or 0 for bigger challenges. Each battle plan card has different permanent effects with supporting cards and make your choice better. So we did have some of these little minor cards with battle plans. You have some 2s and some 1s. So you can either take a 2, 2 1s, or you can take a 0 and not do anything. And they're just going to give you extra little effects in there you can do. So it's like when you play a supporting hero card, you may move your hero to the opposite location. You play a supporting hero anytime during your turn, you may automatically rescue one. Each supporting hero card on the attack to the bottom gives an extra attack. So some different stuff just kind of help boost up your mode. And I love that they're kind of like the villain, superhero cards for the versus mode. This has multiple cards. It's not like here you have 3 cards with extra actions. No, they have a bunch of options you can choose, which is really helpful. Pick a villain playing a 2-player game regarding health and stuff like that. You may add challenges and do other stuffing that make it harder. So it's kind of going to be like this is playing as the Huntress. She has her equipment cards. She took her 2 battle plans. She has her hand of cards. And then she has her deck shuffled up. And she's revealed a Catwoman and a Superman card. So now she has the option of using them as well. They're drawn for the 2 parts using 2 budget battle plans chosen. Turns are resolved to yield main hero acting every turn. Each hero's turn, you may either play a regular turn by drawing 1 card from the main deck and playing 1 card, or instead of drawing a card, choose one of the 2 supporting cards. So either I can draw a card and play one of mine, or I can play one of those up there, and then they just get refreshed. On hero's turn, immediately following each villain turn, you must always play a regular turn using the main hero card. You can't play supporting hero cards. So if I'm doing the 3, so basically it's right, it's villain, and I have to play one of my cards as a hero, and then I can play supporting card, villain. And then when it drops down to them only getting 2 actions, then it's villain, I have to play Huntress card, for example. Then the next option can be one of these cards, or Huntress, and then villain attacks. Main hero is always active hero, stuff refers to, just more stuff like that, some specific rules. There's also, an interesting note, supervillain versus commander solo rules. So playing 1 versus 1, combining the villain, so someone plays as a villain, someone else plays as a team. So if you want to play a 2-player game, but someone wants to play a villain, you can definitely do that as well. So it's really cool. There's just the other different modes in there, and they added stuff in there to make that work. Alright, so that's what we have for DC Superheroes Net. So a lot of information I went through. The only thing I didn't bring up was we have a little cube here. This is sometimes tracked with some of the villains. I do not believe any villain in this set uses it, but there might, again, like the tokens in some of the other cards and stuff. There might be villains in other sets that use that. That's even some of the other master plan, the super villain and hero cards. They might reference things that characters in this set don't do. They might say, oh, if they have this type of thing, or if they trigger that stuff. But again, the rulebook wants to cover everything that could be a possibility, instead of it being like, oh, now you bought this expansion, here's a brand new rule for them characters. So, pretty cool. And this is usually to track like a threat meter on a villain. It'll be like, they have like 10 spots. Every time they get an overflow, it ups 1, or every time they do they damage a hero, it ups it by 1. If it gets to 10, then they win the game. Alright, that's what we have for this. Come back, check out video part 2 when we go through and we look at the all the heroes and villains. See you guys later. Bye.